Yo, what is going on, guys? We're back today for another video in our ranking series. Now, before we get into the rankings, I have to give the standard disclaimer that this is 1,000,000% my sole humble opinion. Legacy's opinion based off of almost 8 years playing this game. Pretty hardcore and pretty endgame. Now, that's not to say that all my opinions and everything I say is 100% correct or factual, because it's not. It's just my opinion based off of all of my experience and time playing this game, and it's totally cool to disagree. This game would be boring if we all agreed on everything, but all I ask is that we keep it respectful. Thank you. Let's get to the rankings. Alright guys, we are back for the final class in the top 8 rankings for 2024. And we saved not the best for last, but definitely maybe the second best. I don't know. I don't know where I rank all the classes right now, but Mystic is feeling really good right now. Really excited to get into this one. So let's go ahead and get started with our 6-star Mystic champions. We have 3 of them to talk about. So coming in at the number 3 spot for 6-star Mystic champs, I have Rintrah. Now, the very cool thing about Rintrah is he's back now. So, like, about a year ago, Rintrah was used and ran in most Battleground decks and was regarded as a pretty good defender and a decent attacker. And then, once like 7-star rank 2s and rank 3s really came off and took off, Rintrah just kind of fell off. And then I think it was somewhere in between, and when we started to get a lot more Ascension dust, we started to see more Rintrahs pop back up in decks. And then with over like the last 2 seasons, especially last season, just Rintrah in everyone's deck. I think he was a really good defender with all the armors and everything. And just, you know, like his special 1 kills time. So if he throws that, you're losing time. And of course his health pool too. You can see my Ascended Rintrah here has 96,000 health. He's a chunky boy. So if Rintrah ever gets added as a 7-star, oh my god, dude, his health pool. He's gonna probably break the top 5 for all 7-stars health pool wise. Yeah, he would be such a good 7-star, but as a 6-star, he's been making a resurgence. It's been a Rintrah resurgence as of late, and honestly, I'm here for it. I think Rintrah's pretty great. I like him. So yeah, that's Rintrah. Not too much more to say about him. Let's go ahead and move on to our second best Mystic 6-star, and that is Dr. Doom. Robert Downey Jr., his future role in the MCU. Dr. Doom here, man. Dr. Doom has been and always will be a fantastic champion for multiple reasons. He's got some of the best power control in the game, the Doom cycle. So powerful, so good. He'll always be relevant for that. And then on the flip side of things, on the defensive side of things, Doom will always be relevant because of his stats. Doom has some of the best base stats in the entirety of MCOC. You can see there, like, the armor rating, critical resistance, block penetration, all those usually, I believe, are like at 0% for most champions, but Doom has increased stats in all of those. His base stats are just insane. This is a 6-star, so if Doom ever is released as a 7-star, the challenger rating and the stat increase on a 7-star will be truly disgusting, and the block penetration on the 7-star will be gross. But as 6-stars, I don't think Doom's the best. There's one 6-star that I put above him. But yeah, Doom, tried and true, so powerful, will always be powerful. Just the power control, the buff control is pretty good too, with the staggers and the heavies and the nullify on the special 1. And the damage is pretty decent too. Like, for everything that Doom has, the damage is pretty decent. Especially if you build up a couple of Furies, then go for some special 2s, the Incinerates, they do some good stuff. But Doom's definitely not the biggest damage dealer in the game, but he's tanky, he is reliable, he is sustainable. He doesn't have regen, but he's just so tanky that he's that sustainable, and he's just consistent and reliant. That's what I love about Doom. Tried and true. Number 2 best 6-star Mystic, but there is one 6-star Mystic champion that I have to put above Dr. Doom, and that is Absorbing Man, because Absorbing Man, bro, this champion, where to begin? Okay, we're gonna begin with my first journey with Absorbing Man. It's on my main accounts. He was in a 6-star featured crystal. He was the 7th champion or something, or the last champion. I think they increased the pool size for him or something when he was released. And it wasn't for him, but it was just the way things ended up working out. So right after Absorbing Man came out, he was readily available in the featured 6-star crystal, and I got him early, and I really started to like him. But the thing with Absorb Man is you want to be utilizing light interruptions. Now, a light interruption doesn't necessarily mean a light intercept. A light interruption could be the opponent's throwing a heavy attack and you use your light attack in the middle of that to interrupt it. That counts. It could be the opponent threw a full 5-hit combo into your block and then you immediately retaliate with a light. That could work. And of course, light intercepting. Out of those, light intercepting is the hardest to do and the biggest skill ask for sure. And before Absorbing Man, I didn't really light intercept. I just didn't really bother. I was so good at medium intercepting and felt so confident on that I just thought I never needed light intercepting. But Absorb Man was finally the thing that pushed me to learn it, and I'm so thankful that I did, because I grew and got so much better as a player just because of this champion. I've put the art of light intercepting into like every fight that I do now with all champs I play, or most champs I play in most matchups. I usually incorporate light intercepts in one fashion or another now, and that's all because of Absorbing Man. So he made me a better player, which I'll always be thankful to him for that. But man, this guy is just so insane on his abilities. Like, the Magma and the Uru form are nuts, and you can just pick whichever form you want to be in, and throw your special 1 or your special 2 to get back in the form if you happen to fall out. And these forms, man, they're so good. For Black Uru, you gain 9,000 physical resistance, full immunity to bleed and shock. And then for the special 2 with Magma form, man, you gain immunity to Cold Snap, Incinerate, Frostbite, 9,000 energy resistance. Like, the utility with just these forms alone is so insane for Absorbing Man. And then when you put in, like, the damage output that he's capable of, like, it's crazy. Like, I brought Absorbing Man on all of my Necropolis paths. And he soloed fights for me. The Airwalker in there, he soloed. Like, I think I've sold that fight like 3 times with Absorbing Man in Necropolis. I even soloed it on, like, Spiker with my Absorbing Man on there, who I don't think was fully maxed out at the time. Like, Absorbing Man is just so powerful, dude. In short fights, in long fights, it doesn't matter. He can really scale really well in both. And then there's also, like, just his money matchups. His money matchups are Vision Arcus, Null, Annihilus, Terrax. Any of those matchups, Silver Surfer, anywhere in the game that applies armor breaks, use Absorbing Man. This last Battleground season, Absorbing Man was the best attacker in the entire meta. He was in every single deck. Unless someone didn't have him in their deck because they're just banning him, He was in every single deck. He was the #1 probably draft champion for the entirety of last season. I would bet money on that, because he was so broken. He could take just about any defender, because when you give Absorb Man enough armor breaks, his damage just is unreal. And because of his forms, he pretty much is ready for just about any fight, because he can change his form. Absorbing Man is so insane. He was the very first 6-star that I pulled on my free-to-play account like Spiker, and that was so massive because all those immunities just carried me through so much early content. All through Act 5, Act 6, anytime I needed an immunity, Absorbing Man had it. The only one that he didn't have was Poison, but he has that, in his, he's able to get it through a synergy. So I think I used like 3-star Incursion Crystals to try to get one of these champions, and then that was my Poison immune. Like, Absorbing Man, just the best 6-star Mystic champ in the game for his immunities. Mainly, damage, everything else, but so much damage, utility, and immunity. Like, it's just, if you need immunities, Absorbing Man is the go-to guy. So, that's all of our 6-star Mystic champions for this video. Now, we have 5 7-star Mystic champions to talk about, and a bonus champion. Let's mention the bonus champion now. So, the bonus champion is Enchantress. Now, at the time of recording this, she just came out like a couple days ago. So, it is very, very, very early. She came out yesterday at the time of recording this. So, she's only been in the game for a day. But so far, I'd say she's had a pretty decent impact. She was only here for the final day of a Battleground season, which was interesting. I did some fights against her with her, and she definitely seems like a pretty powerful defender. I don't really know how she's looking on attack because she's such a complicated champion with her spell book and everything. It's just so early. But I think Enchantress definitely has potential to be top 5 for sure, maybe even top 3. But for now, she's just going to be a bonus edition. We're not going to rank her special because she is so new. All right, let's get into the top 5 7 stars now. So coming in at the number 5 spot, we have my first Mystic Rank 3 champion, and that was Sasquatch. Not only was he my first Mystic Rank 3, but I used a generic 2 to 3 rank up gem on this man that we got from 100%ing Necropolis. You know, the biggest endgame content in the game. 100%ing that, the ultimate reward, being a 2-3 generic. This is who I gave it to, Sasquatch, because he's that good. He has the number 1 biggest health pool in the entirety of playable champions in the MCOC roster. He's number 1. That alone is, you know, a big pro for Sasquatch. That really adds to his defensive threat and capability, because in Battlegrounds, you're just never going to have a higher health pool opponent. So that's big. But what truly makes Sasquatch an unreal defender and one of the best defenders in the game, his health pool is a big part of it, but the other part of it is his Wrath. He also has 90% cold snap resistance, which is really nice. That's really nice. It's such a rare immunity to have. But yeah, here we are. So it's Spirit of Rage and his Wrath of Tanarak. This is what truly makes Sasquatch an insane defender. And a very good attacker as well. This stuff is all usable on attack as well. So when you're playing Sassy offensively, light attacks have a 30% chance to build Rage, increased to 100% on the 3rd light. So you want to be using those lights in your combos to build up that Rage, to build them up faster against Wrath quicker. So you build 1 Rage every 4.5 seconds. That Sasquatch didn't land a hit. So that Rage will just passively build up, especially like on defense. It's just going to build up over time. So for each stack of that Rage, you reduce all incoming damage except for special 3s by 5% per stack of Rage. Now when you're fighting against Sasquatch, you know, this is what the thing. It varies when he goes into his Wrath of Tanarak here. So if Sasquatch has 5 or more Rage, each stack gained above this threshold has a flat 10% chance to remove all stacks and trigger Wrath of Tanarak. This lasts for 1.7 seconds per stack removed. During Wrath of Tanarak, Sassy is stun immune, he gains block penetration, 50% combat power rate. His special 1 and 2 cost 50% less power, and special 3 costs 25% less power. And while the opponent has 3 bars of power, special and heavy attacks will drain max power, which is nice. So it's a little bit of power control. But the main thing here is that first bullet point. So once you have 5 or more, for each stack gained above, it's a flat 10% chance to remove all stacks and trigger Wrath. The thing is, that's all RNG. So when you're fighting Sassy, you know, he could trigger his Wrath at 6 charges. He could trigger it at 7. He could trigger it at 8. He could trigger it at 9. He could trigger it at 10. And the longer that it takes, again, it's just all RNG when you're fighting against him. It's increased chance per Rage stack, but it's not guaranteed. So that can just keep going up and up and up and up to like 12, 13 until he's forced to trigger it. And remember, for each of those Rage stacks, all damage, 5% of all damage is being reduced. So, you know, let's say he has 10 Rage stacks. That's half your damage is gone. Your damage is being cut in half. So if you get unlucky, you can just have a really long fight, just doing so much reduced damage. And again, the biggest health pool in the game, plus so much damage mitigation that's RNG based. That is what truly makes Sassy such a potent and top tier defender. And on the flip side of things, he's a pretty underrated attacker. He can hit really hard when he crits. You build up the ruptures to do big damage, and in Wrath, like we said, you know, your specials cost 50% less power, so you can spam a lot of specials and just do a ton of damage. Sassy's a great Maestro counter, who's a very meta-relevant defender. He's a pretty solid Serpent counter, which is another very meta-relevant defender. So Sasquatch can do some really good things on attack, but yeah, defense is his bread and butter. That's our number 5 7-star Mystic Champion. All right, coming in at the number 4 spot, we have a very well-loved champion by the community. That is America Chavez here. So I haven't used her a ton. I've definitely not been the biggest fan of this champion. She came out alongside Hercules, and she was definitely overshadowed ever since she first came out, but she also sucked when she first came out. But then she got buffed, and ever since her buff, she has been a very, very powerful champion, very versatile champion. I wanted to put her higher on the list, but I just couldn't, because I have so much more experience with the 3 champions that are above her, and I really enjoy those 3 champions. I think they're very powerful, so I just couldn't justify putting Chavez higher. I think, again, this is where it's really my opinion. I think a lot of other people would have Chavez higher on this list, and I think that's completely fair. But yeah, she's an incredible attacker, really good against high buff count opponents. She's one of the best Serpent counters because she's able to invert his power gain, which is really big with one of her dimensions, the dimension that when you finish your heavy attack with. So that's really big utility there. And on top of everything, she's a great attacker, but she's also a pretty good defender. She can just be kind of wild with her heavies, and if she gets that special 2, can be unblockable and hit you really hard. So yeah, Chavez, really, really solid champion. And yeah, if I had more experience with her, she definitely could be higher on the list. All right, number 3. This is a champion that I do have a lot of experience with, and I really love, and that is Werewolf by Night. And I redid the top of this Mystic list at least twice. I originally had Werewolf higher on this list, but I had to pull him down a little bit because I didn't want to let my own bias come into play too much. But still, even without that bias, I think Werewolf is a top 3 Mystic champion in the game. I genuinely do. I think Werewolf by Night is still very underrated, but he's so good. He is so freaking good, man. His damage source is Ruptures, physical based, which I really like. Not many champions in the game that are immune to Rupture, and the only 2 that come to mind, are Scorpion and Spider-Punk, who are in the Science class. You're not really going to be fighting them with Werewolf in the first place. But yeah, what makes Werewolf so good is, first, we're going to talk about him defensively a little bit. He's a good defender. Anyone who tells you he's not a good defender, probably doesn't have a rank 3 and probably doesn't use him on defense. But I do. I have him at rank 3, and I definitely put him on defense from time to time. In certain situations, I even put him on defense over my Sasquatch. I did that one time last season because they had an Absorbing Man. Like we talked about earlier, Absorbing Man could do pretty much any defender this last season. It was the final round, and I had either Sasquatch put on defense or Werewolf put on defense. 9 out of 10 times, Sasquatch is the better defender. But 1 out of 10 times, this was that 1 out of 10, Werewolf was the better defender. And his Absorbing Man came out of the fight with like 80% health. Because Werewolf can apply Ruptures through the block to deal some damage to you. He can also, trigger his Howls and go unstoppable and unblockable and really catch you that way. Also, Werewolf has one of the highest health pools in the entire game. It's not on the same quite level as Sassy, but you can still see he has 104,000 health. That is a lot. That is a very, very big health pool. So that makes him a good defender. And on top of all that, what really, just the cherry on top of his defensive kit is his AI. His AI is kind of wonky because he howls. The howl is very useful. We're about to talk about that a little bit on attack. But defensively, his AI will try to do these howls, and it's just weird. So his AI is programmed to go for these howls, so it doesn't act like the standard AI of just block, dash forward, dash back. He lingers and goes to howl. So that can definitely mess people up on defense because the AI is acting weird. So for all of those reasons combined, it makes Werewolf a pretty decent defender. I'm not saying he's the top 10 defender in the game or anything, but he's definitely a pretty good option for all those reasons I just mentioned. Now, offensively, because you guys know I like champions that are dual threats. They're going to be good on defense and offense, and Werewolf fits that bill perfectly. He's a champion that I want to be using on offense more often than not, but I can definitely use him on defense if I have a draft where I don't get too many defenders. But on the offensive side of things, he has his Howl. Now, when Werewolf howls, he gains a burst of power gain, which is really nice. And the way to build Werewolf up is anytime you gain a bar of power, and every time you howl, you gain charges. Once you gain 10 charges, you go into your Curse of Lycanthropy, and that's when you start to do real big damage, and you also have access to regeneration, which is really nice. But the way to build up and ramp up quicker is if you have Rupture on the opponents when you're doing those things, howling, gaining bars of power, you gain more charges. So you can just hit their block with a medium. Your first medium, it's 2 hits, so medium into their block. You can apply 2 Rupture debuffs, and then you can howl, gain power, and you can just do that. So you can literally do fights with Werewolf. This is where so much utility comes from, and you don't even have to hit the opponent. You can just hit their block, howl, gain power that way, gain your charges that way, get special 2, let that rip, and it's going to do so much damage. Once you're in that Curse of Lycanthropy, your special 2 does so much damage. Instant damage, rupture damage, you just see their health bar melt. It's awesome. It's really awesome, bro. Werewolf is a phenomenal Serpent counter. He's phenomenal for pretty much any Cosmic Defender out there. He's going to have a good time against. And against champions that have more buffs or just more unique buffs, he's going to gain more personal regeneration potency based on those amount of unique buffs. So the more buffs, the better. More he's going to be healing. And yeah, with the Awaken ability as well, with the Howl, above 1 bar, he goes unblockable. And then above 2 bars, he goes unstoppable as well. So again, that can really catch people on defense. So like I said, I wanted to put Werewolf even higher on this list. I really like him. I highly recommend him. I love this guy. And 2 other things to mention on Werewolf before we talk about the other 2 champions here. One of them is his Relic. His Relic is really, really good. This is the Ghost Rider Relic. What makes it so good is when you... here we have a Vicious. So when inflicting a Degeneration, Vulnerability, or Stagger, when we apply Degeneration, Vulnerability just by using the Striker, by activating the button. So it activates that. That gives us a Vicious, 5% Vicious passive, which is going to increase our damage over time effects. So that makes him just do more damage. This one is plus direct damage effect potency. The ruptures are all physical based, so it doesn't get the direct damage potency increase. But this last one here, this is big. Plus 3.31% power gain potency. So like we said, you get the power gain on the howls. So this increases that power gain from those howls even more. This is my highest rank relic. It's at rank 3. Only have 1 rank 3 relic in the game right now. So... and I took up this relic. That's how much I like Werewolf. I wanted his relic to be my highest ranked one. Plus the Ghost Rider relic looks super cool. That was a little bit of it as well. And Werewolf himself looks really, really cool. I think there was one more thing I was going to say about him, but I can't remember what it is now. So, yeah, let's go ahead and move on. We have 2 more Mystic Champions to talk about. So, number 2... the second best Mystic 7-star in the game, I have Juggernaut. So I could absolutely see people having Juggernaut at number 1. I think that's totally fair. Champion at number 1, I'll explain why when we get there. But let's talk about Juggernaut. I think Juggernaut is one of the most powerful 7-stars in all of MCOC. He's so good. He is so good. Juggernaut was a massive stinker way back in the day for years, many, many years. He was primarily a defender and not a very good one, but he was an okay defender that when he threw his special attack, he would get a little unstoppable buff for a little while. And that made him kind of annoying because every time you base special, you'd have to wait out his unstoppable. It's just like Unstoppable Colossus. They worked pretty much the exact same. But now that Juggernaut has been buffed, one of the best buffs we've ever seen, and it's a buff befitting the unstoppable Juggernaut, because that's who this man is. He has the power of the Gem of Sidorak, which basically, it makes Juggernaut invulnerable to pretty much most damage. And then his helmet, protects him from being having his mind messed with by like telepaths and stuff. So his body's invulnerable, and with his helmet, his mind is impenetrable. Like, Juggernaut is, in the comics, ridiculous. So, this buff makes sense. His buff makes total sense. He's so strong now. It's really fitting. He gains a lot of unstoppable He's very simple to play. You just get to 10 unstoppable, then use your special 2. You get a Fat Fury buff, and you just do an ungodly amount of damage. And it's awesome. He's one of the fastest nukes in the game. When I'm doing like any generic questing nowadays, I always bring my 7-star rank 2 Juggernaut on my team because he's just so fast. He's so fast. He goes through fights so quick. There was an event last month, coin stamps, where if you did the side quest, you'd get do enough fights in the side quest, you'd get points. Juggernaut wasn't even a tactic for this, and you got more points for using like the Saga champs. But I used Jugs for the boss because he did the boss in like 20 seconds. Like 20 seconds, man. Like he's just so freaking fast. It's unreal. He's one of the quickest, fastest battleground nukes in the entire game. He just does so much damage with the Awaken ability. He can nullify, has a chance to nullify buffs per unstoppable. Unawakened, he can still control buffs with his heavy attack that applies a stagger, passive stagger to the opponent to buff control that way. And yeah, dude, Juggernaut also, while he has the gem active, he reduces all damage by 25% right here. When the Crimson Gem's direct is active, Juggernaut is empowered, and he just gains 2,400 attack ranks, just additional attack. Immunity to reverse controls, which is really good. And then 25% damage reduction. Just period. All damage is reduced by 25%. That's really good. That's like Sassy having 5 of his rage stacks. Just always 25% damage reduction. That makes Juggernaut, actually very viable with the recoil masteries, the bleed and poison, although he's not immune to either. But he just takes 25% less damage from it. So, like, Juggernaut, man, he's so insane. But the problem, I think, and the reason why I don't have him higher is because he's simple. He's really good at doing damage, but he doesn't have the most utility outside of that. And he's very easy to shut down. It's very simple to shut down Juggernaut. And this is exactly what Serpent did. The person who made Serpent didn't want this super new hard defender to just be easily ran through by Juggernaut. So, what's the easy way to counter Juggernaut? It's just any non-damaging debuff. Any non-damaging debuff applied to Juggernaut will disable his Gem of Sidorak. Then he has to throw a special to reactivate it. So it's very easy to stop Juggernaut. That's the only downside about him. It's so easy for a Battlegrounds meta to just have a debuff trigger or something, and then for Juggernaut not to be viable for it. That's his weakness, which I think is good for such a strong champion to have such an exploitable weakness. Helps to balance the champion out a little bit. But, yeah, that's Juggernaut at number 2. Now, the number 1 best Mystic 7-star in the entirety of MCOC. Nope, not Diablo. Kushala. I think Kushala is the best. She's just so versatile. She's so powerful. And she's honestly not that far behind Juggernaut in nuking. In being, this mystic nuke. Kushala is very fast. She's very fast. She does a lot of damage. But the thing about Kushala versus Juggernaut is she has so much more utility. So much more utility than Juggernaut. She has base level immunities of Bleed and Incinerate, which is great, which all the Spirit Riders do now. CGR, Ghost Rider, and Kushala. All of her attacks deal energy damage, which is really nice. Like, that makes her a good core counter, for example. And then she has, her blessings that she activates. And my favorite one by far is the blue one, and it's the easiest one to keep up as well. You just parry. All you have to do is parry. They all max out at 3, so after 3 parries, you have the max stacks of this. And when you activate these through the opponent's specials, they last longer, so you can just parry parts of the opponent's special, they last longer. And what that does, I believe it's called the Blessing of Justice, it allows Kushala, first of all, it heals block damage per blessing. So, although she doesn't have the best block proficiency, she can heal block damage, and I do run the block proficiency stat focus. But what else that blessing does is it allows Kushala to block all unblockable attacks. I think other than from Science Champions, let's fact check that. Yeah, from non-Science Champions. Now, keep in mind, I said all unblockable. There's a fair few champions in the game that can block unblockable special attacks. Shuri, Mordo, Mr. Sinister, and that's cool. But Kushala takes it to a whole other level. It's all attacks. All unblockable attacks. So specials, basic combos. For example, you're fighting Nick Fury. He throws a special one. He goes unblockable. It doesn't matter with Kushala. She can block it. As long as she has one of these blessings. And to keep up one, you just have to parry. That utility is insane. I think that's one of my favorite things about Kushala. But yeah, she also, a big problem with a lot of Mystic champions is, they take advantage and punish buffs, but not every champion gains buffs. But for Kushala they do, unless they're buff immune, because Kushala can apply ignition buffs to the opponent. Similar to how Dr. Voodoo can apply his Loas and then nullify them for poison, Kushala can do that and nullify them for incinerate. But let's say you have an incinerate immune opponent. Okay, no problem. Just go for the special 2, and you're going to apply a Soul Barb. And Soul Barb is going to deal damage based on how many buffs the opponent has. So that's really nice. Okay, well, Soul Barb is energy-based damage. Let's say your opponent is Incinerate immune and has insane energy resistance. So you can't use your special 1, and you can't really use your special 2. That's okay. Kushala has another means of damage, and that is with her special 3. With her special 3, she applies Degeneration, which is direct damage. So that's what I really like about Kushala. She has multiple ways to deal damage based on what the fight requires. She can pretty much always be a good option and deal damage. And what I really love about her, is debuffs. The special 1 is Incinerate debuffs, the special 2 is in a Soul Barb debuff, and the special 3 is Degeneration debuffs. Okay, well, what if you have an opponent that maybe you don't want to have debuffs against, like Kingpin, for example? Well, that's where Kushala's signature ability comes into play. She can replace her damaging debuffs with passives based on, and it's a chance based on her sig level and for the amount of active blessings. So I really, 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 really love that. I just think Kushala is so versatile. There's so much she can do. She has been relevant in Battlegrounds in the last few metas. It seems like she's always relevant. She's I think she is the #1 best Serpent counter in the game. And I think Serpent is currently the strongest defender in the game. So being the best counter to the strongest defender definitely is a part of the reason why I think she is the strongest Mystic 7-star. But yeah, that was a lot. Oh yeah, and one last thing I wanted to mention about Jugs was that Jugs is really powerful, but what makes him even more powerful is his own relic. Which is insane. Juggernaut did not need his own relic, but here it is. So with this part of the relic, he can get regeneration. So Jugs can heal. With this part of the relic, Fury potency. And then with this part, more combat power rate. So this relic is just insane on Juggernaut. Makes him even nuttier. But yeah, let's go ahead and pull up the full complete top 8 list. So at number 8, I got Rintra. At number 7, we have Sasquatch. At number 6, we have Dr. Doom. At number 5, we have Absorbing Man. At number 4, America Chavez. At number 3, Werewolf by Night. At number 2, Juggernaut. And at number 1, Kushala. That is my Mystic top 8 class for 6 stars and 7 stars. That is the final video in the 6 class rankings, but we have 2 more coming for the entirety of the 6 stars in MCOC, and then finally top 10 7 stars in all of MCOC. Final 2 videos in this series. Hope you guys have been enjoying it. Drop a like if so, subscribe if you want to see more. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you all have a great day. Peace.